Welcome, Mark, and thank you for staying with us. This is Beyond Wild is One. We're glad you're watching. I'm Eric Mjoka. Our top stories. United States says it has reached a tentative agreement for Ukraine and Russia to stop fighting and ensure safe navigation in the Black Sea, claims many details unresolved as the Kremlin made the deal conditional on the lifting of some Western sanctions.
It was a mistake that a reporter was inadvertently added to a Signal chat with high-level national security principles.
U.S. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard tells Senate hearing that Atlantic reporter being added to the Signal chat was a mistake. Gabbard claims chat had no classified information. After Atlantic magazine in the U.S. made details of the Signal chat on Houthi strike plans public, the White House dismisses the magazine leak as a hoax, despite official confirmation. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance dismisses the story as being oversold. Ahead of an international summit in Paris, senior aide to President Zelensky says Ukraine needs serious contribution from Europe with troops that are ready to fight and not peacekeepers. Palestinians in Gaza stage anti-Hamas protests for the second day in a row, calling for an end to the war with Israel. Demonstrators carrying banners reading "Hamas does not represent us" march in the town of Beit Lahia. "24 people killed so far in the wildfires raging across South Korea's southeastern region. Casualties include pilot of a helicopter that crashed during firefighting operations. The deadly wildfires have forced over 27,000 people to evacuate homes.
Health officials in the Democratic Republic of Congo have confirmed that a mysterious illness that killed more than 50 people earlier this year was malaria. The National Public Health Institute announced late Monday that tests confirmed the disease caused the deaths of 52 people and affected nearly 1,000 others in Equator Province. Symptoms included fever, fatigue, vomiting and weight loss. Initially suspected to be either malaria or food poisoning, the illness was identified after lab testing on patient samples. Officials are still waiting the results of tests on food, water and drink samples. This follows a separate malaria outbreak in December, also initially unidentified, that has since been confirmed as malaria too.
The end of an era. This clinic in Johannesburg has relied on US funding to provide comprehensive HIV treatment to the city's gay community. Now the office furniture is being carried away to be auctioned. The clinic is closing due to a freeze in US funding.
Of a stop work order in January, we activated that. We started communicating that to staff, and again in the context of what we are a performance-based partner, so there was no money in the kitty to just carry on as per the 90 days review program.
With its closure, concerns have surfaced over how members of the community will gain access to services and treatment they desperately need.
We have clinicians, we have lay people, administration people, etc. that come here every day. This is their bread and butter, but it's also what they strive to achieve at the end of the day. You know, it's compassion, it's devotion, etc. And to tell them that you no longer have a job, I mean, it's difficult. It's really, really difficult. I struggle to understand how some people may cope with it.
The U.S. government's freezes and cuts on foreign aid have also led many UN agencies to cut staff, budgets and services in many countries and regions. As Mekele, capital of Ethiopia's Tigray state, attempts to recover from war, a new setback has emerged. Once considered a model in the fight against HIV, Tigray has seen a surge in new infections since the war. Today, the HIV prevalence rate in the region is 3% compared to the pre-war figure of 1.4%. The current HIV situation is evident. There's been a significant rise in prevalence compared to the conditions before the war, with the average monthly positivity rate increasing considerably. Additionally, the risk of mother-to-child transmission, which had previously been declined to 0, has changed dramatically. We're now seeing children under the age of 2 who are born HIV positive, a direct result of interrupted access to crucial medications during the conflict. Most of the patients get their services from the Ida Referral Hospital in Mekele. Experts say rampant sexual violence during the war is to blame for the surge in infections.
Prior to the war, the prevalence of HIV was 1.43%. That number has now gone up to 3%. Tuberculosis as well, the magnitude has significantly increased. And all this is happening on the background of a damaged health system.
There's growing concern that aid cuts announced by the US will worsen the situation. Ethiopia has already laid off 5,000 health workers who were hired with US funds to combat HIV.
동시다발적으로 발생한 대형 산불이 안동, 청송, 영양, 영덕 등으로 번지며 역대 최악의 산불 기록을 갈아쓰고 있습니다. 산불 진화 과정에서 유명을 달리하신 4분을 포함하여 현재 기준 총 18분이 목숨을 잃고 주민 2만 3천여 명이 긴급 대피하였습니다. 정부는 무엇보다 산불 진화를 최우선으로 가용한 인력 장비를 총동원하여 산불 확산의 고리를 단절하는 데 총력을 기울이겠습니다. 아울러 근본 산불로 피해를 입은 피해자의 조속한 일상 회복을 위하여 긴급 구호를 비롯하여 행정적, 재정적 지원에 소홀함이 없도록 하겠습니다.
We have to do something like drapes or something because the light eventually affects it. And it's very cool.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that great? Just went up yesterday.
Wow.
Think Joe Biden would do this? I don't think so. Do you think he'd think of it? Do you think he knows what it is?
At least 54 people were killed in a military airstrike on a local market in Sudan's western region, aid groups reported on Tuesday. The attack on the village of Tora on Monday caused a massive fire. The Sudanese military denied targeting civilians, calling the allegations incorrect. However, rights groups have condemned the strike, calling it a war crime due to its impact on densely populated areas. More than half of the victims were women and at least 23 others were injured. The ongoing conflict, which began in April 2023, has left over 28,000 dead, with millions displaced.
And now moving to Asia, Japan has announced an anti-dumping duty of more than 95% on China's graphite electrode exports. The tariffs, which are aimed at protecting domestic industries, will be imposed for 4 months starting this Saturday. The Japanese tariffs come after the conclusion of a government probe last month. In their interim report, the investigators noted that China was selling graphite electrodes in Japan at unfairly low prices, hurting domestic companies. Graphite electrode is an industrial material primarily used in the manufacturing of electric arc furnace steel. Japan's government launched the probe against China in April of last year following a complaint by 3 Japanese graphite makers. Now the announcement of Japanese tariffs on China coincided with another spat between the two nations. On Monday, Tokyo lodged protests with Beijing after Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi misquoted Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba's remarks. Last Saturday, the Chinese Foreign Minister was in Tokyo to improve trilateral ties that also involved South Korea.
The 3 parties are maintaining communication on restarting the negotiations on the free trade agreement and strive to resume them as soon as possible. The network of East Asian cultural capitals is further expanding.
I expressed my concern over North Korea's nuclear missile activities, exploitation of cryptographic assets, and military cooperation between Russia and North Korea.
Wang Yi paid a visit to Prime Minister Ishiba and claimed the Japanese leader said his country respects the positions of the Chinese side. Yi even stressed that Japan should, quote, fulfill important political commitments on historical issues and the Taiwan question, end quote. However, Japan later said that Prime Minister Ishiba agreed to no such statement. Tokyo also sought the removal of factually incorrect information from China's statement. However, responding to Tokyo's protest, Beijing defended Wang Yi's misquoted statement.
Isn't it normal for countries to respect each other's positions in state-to-state relations? According to my understanding, this important and beneficial meeting and interaction between China and Japan embodies such a spirit. Regarding this meeting, China has issued a relevant readout. You can refer to the relevant questions, and I have already answered them. I would like to re-emphasize that this important and beneficial interaction between China and Japan embodies the spirit of mutual respect.
Notably, Japan has close ties with Taiwan, and it opposes any change to the status quo concerning the self-governing island. But China claims Taiwan as part of its territory under its One China principle and has not ruled out the possibility of using force to take over the island.
China has expelled several Japanese fishing vessels that had allegedly entered into China's territorial waters. The Chinese Coast Guard has accused the boats of unlawfully entering the disputed waters around Diaodao. Now, over the span of 4 days, from Friday till Monday, 4 Japanese fishing vessels have been expelled from the waters of China's Diaodao. A spokesperson for the Chinese Coast Guard, Li Dujin, has said that the CCG vessels enforced necessary lawful management and control measures against the Japanese vessels and also issued warnings to drive them out of the area. He also stressed that Diaodao and its affiliated islands are China's inherent territory and has urged the Japanese side to immediately cease all illegal activities in the waters. Japan has rejected China's claims to the island, and over the past few months, the two nations have had a number of confrontations in the area. Now, the spokesperson further added that CCG will continue to conduct regular law enforcement activities in the territorial waters of Diaodao with the aim of safeguarding China's territorial sovereignty and maritime rights and interests.
美方滥用实体清单等出口管制工具，以危害美国国家安全、违反美国外交政策为借口，滥施非法单边制裁，是典型的霸权主义行径，严重违反国际法和国际关系基本准则，严重损害企业的合法权益，破坏全球产供链安全稳定。中方对此坚决反对，予以强烈谴责。
Director of U.S. National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard has claimed that North Korea may be prepared to carry out its 7 nuclear tests on short notice. Gabbard made the remarks during a congressional testimony on the annual threat assessment of the U.S. intelligence community.
North Korea is probably prepared to conduct another nuclear test on short notice and continues to flight test its ICBMs to demonstrate their increasing capabilities as leverage in future negotiations.
The 2025 annual threat assessment released by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence warns that North Korea's Kim Jong-un will continue to pursue strategic and conventional military capabilities to target the U.S. and its allies. The report added that Pyongyang is increasing its nuclear warhead stockpile and improving ballistic missile technology, including conducting 3 launches in 2024 of what it claimed were intermediate-range ballistic missiles equipped with maneuverable hypersonic payloads. Meanwhile, last week, the U.S., Japanese and South Korean navies conducted their first trilateral drills. North Korea condemned the drills and warned that any further provocations would be met with an overwhelming response from Pyongyang. North Korea also successfully test-fired its latest surface-to-air missile system. According to the Korean Central News Agency, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un oversaw the launch of the anti-aircraft missile system that was recently put into full-scale production. North Korea says the test firing was aimed at examining the comprehensive performance of the system, claiming that it proved the missile's combat-fast response is advantageous and highly reliable.
Meanwhile, the United States could be preparing for further strikes against Yemen's Houthis, as a squadron of US B-2 Spirit stealth bombers is reportedly heading for the Indian Ocean's tiny Diego Garcia Island. Well, according to the Warzone website reports, satellite images have revealed a major military build-up on Diego Garcia over the past 48 hours, with at least 3 C-17 cargo planes and 10 aerial refueling tanks arriving at the remote island. While TWZ reports say air traffic control audio picked up communications from 2 B-2 bombers flying over Australia on Tuesday. Their crew confirmed the presence of a 3rd bomber, suggesting a coordinated mission. And a 4th B-2 had to make an emergency landing at Hickam Air Force Base in Hawaii. Well, TWZ further said that air traffic recordings suggested that additional B-2s departing from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri were also bound for Diego Garcia. Data suggested that U.S. Air Force F-35A Joint Strike Fighters have also been sent to the region. Diego Garcia is part of the Chagos group of islands and a joint US-UK military base in the Indian Ocean, where Washington could be preparing grounds for its missions, as it is out of range of Iranian and Houthi missiles. While the military build-up comes as the United States has intensified its campaign against the Iran-backed Houthis in Yemen, and President Donald Trump himself issued strong warning on Truth Social, saying every shot fired by the Houthis will be looked upon as a shot fired by Iran, and Iran will be held responsible with dire consequences. Meanwhile, Iran has released a video of its Chief of Staff of Armed Forces, General Mohammad Bagheri, and IRGC Aerospace Force Commander Amir Ali Hajizadeh visiting what Iranian media called an underground missile city. The two officials boarded a vehicle that toured the underground complex, passing by rows of parked vehicles carrying various ballistic missiles. An Iranian flag and IRGC logo were displayed on the lead vehicle in a convoy carrying weapons.
The armed forces continue their path of growth, advancement, and capability determinedly.
If we start today, we will unveil a new missile city every week. The project will continue for the next 2 years.
Furthermore, U.S. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard has said that Iran at the moment is not actively pursuing a nuclear weapon. But she, the American intelligence community, have assessed that the discussion of nuclearization has increased inside the regime in Tehran. She further added that Iran's enriched uranium stockpile is at its highest level and is unprecedented for a state without nuclear weapons.
The IC continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Supreme Leader Khamenei has not authorized the nuclear weapons program that he suspended in 2003.
The United States and the Houthi rebels remain locked in a cycle of retaliatory strikes amidst the tit-for-tat attacks. Iran is flexing its military muscles with a new missile city. So what's next? Our next report gets you the details.
The U.S. is sharpening its attack on Yemen. Its military unleashing superior firepower, missiles piercing the night with a deafening roar. At least 17 strikes reported in Sada and Amran. The Houthis' Ansarullah website said the aggressive air raids caused material damage to citizens' property, but gave no details of casualties. In line with their general approach, downplaying their losses and exaggerating their attacks. In the latest, the group claimed to have targeted U.S. warships and an aircraft in the Red Sea, as well as military targets in Israel. The group's spokesperson, Yahya Sarria, said in the televised statement that their missile forces, drone air force and naval forces carried out a joint military operation, targeting the warships in the Red Sea, including U.S. aircraft carrier USS Harry Truman.
The missile forces, the drone air force, and the naval forces carried out a joint military operation targeting hostile warships in the Red Sea, primarily the American aircraft carrier Truman, which serves as a launching base for aggression against our country.
The Houthi missiles are also streaking across the skies of Israel. In a separate operation, Sarria said that their drone air force targeted Israeli military targets in Tel Aviv in support of the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip.
In solidarity with the oppressed Palestinian people in Gaza and in continuation of our support for them, the drone air force targeted Israeli military objectives in the occupied Jaffa area earlier, using several drones.
As tensions between U.S., Israel and Houthis escalate, the rebel group's main benefactor, Iran, continues flexing its military muscles. Unveiling recently what state media dubs as a new missile city, showcasing a variety of domestically produced missiles. U.S. has warned Iran it will hold Tehran accountable for its proxy's action.
Every shot fired by the Houthis will be looked upon from this point forward as being a shot fired from the weapons and leadership of Iran, and Iran will be held responsible and suffer the consequences, and those consequences will be dire.
In reply, Iran's Supreme Leader Khamenei called out what it called U.S.'s big mistake of calling regional resistance centers Iranian proxies. He said they act on their own motivation, and counter-threatened if the U.S. or anyone else commits any malicious act against Iran, they will receive a severe blow.
Americans should know threats will get them nowhere when confronting Iran.
Fears of a larger conflict are at an all-time high. Is the world staring at another war? Only time will tell. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
For more on the latest, we are now being joined by Peter Kuznick, Professor of History and Director of the Nuclear Studies Institute at American University. Peter, welcome back to WION, and great to talk to you. How will Iran's new missile city impact regional balance of power? Can we go that far? And just sticking closer to the story, what implications does this move have for Houthis?
Iran is a potent force in the region. Iran has defensive capabilities and offensive capabilities. In the two exchanges last year with Israel, Iran showed not only that it can prevent Israel from flying over Iranian airspace, but it has the ability to strike inside of Israel and beyond that. So Iran is making a statement just like the United States is making a statement right now. And Israel has been trying for years to get the United States to back Israel in an attack on Iran's nuclear facilities. Well, the situation could, as you suggest, easily spiral out of control. The possibility of this sparking World War III is a real one, but the U.S. is intent upon striking in Yemen and accusing Iran of backing the Houthi attacks. So this is a situation that gets more dangerous by the day. And the U.S. right now is also looking for a distraction. This latest fiasco with the intelligence community, and including this reporter in the war plans, is a huge embarrassment for the Trump administration. So anything they can do to divert attention, Musk's job cutting is already very, very unpopular. And Trump wants to somehow push through this enormous tax cut for America's billionaires while cutting social services for the poor. So what Trump wants to do is distract attention away from his unpopular policies and incompetent policies in the United States by opening up another front, now with the Houthis, but potentially with Iran. And that could lead to World War III. That is a very, very dangerous scenario.
Peter, the United States says that it was successful in its latest strikes against the Houthis despite that leak. Do you think that the United States will be able to deter the Houthis in that region and ultimately move on from this fighting that's erupted, that's affecting not only geopolitical aspects of the situation, but also shipping lines and whatnot?
The Houthis are a unique phenomenon. They managed to persevere against years of Saudi attacks backed by the United States. They did not give in, and they were not defeated. So the Houthis are willing to sacrifice a lot for what seems to be their principles. What they say their goal is to support the Gazans who are being brutalized by Israel with U.S. support. And they say that, you have to remember that during the ceasefire, the Houthis stopped their attacks on Red Sea shipping. But once the ceasefire broke apart and there was a cutoff of humanitarian aid in Gaza, the Houthis announced that they were going to begin their strikes against Israeli shipping. The U.S. used that as a pretext for attacking the Houthis. So the U.S. was looking for that. But the real goal is not Yemen, which is poor, relatively weak, small population, although strategically located. The real goal is Iran. And that's what has everybody worried about. And Trump has made very, very clear that he holds Iran responsible for anything the Houthis do, even though most experts agree that the Houthis are in many ways independent. They don't get the marching orders from Iran. They act on their own guidance. And so this seems to be, the danger is this is a pretext This is what Netanyahu has been wanting and what Trump seems to be willing to give Netanyahu, even though the consequences are so dire. So even though Trump is trying to get a ceasefire and possibly a resolution to the fighting in Ukraine, he's opening up another front. And Hegseth has said, the Secretary of Defense has said, that the real goal of ending the war in Ukraine so the U.S. can focus on the real enemy, which is China. So Trump is going all over the place now, but is very, very embarrassed by these latest revelations, which show the thorough incompetence of his national security and defense team. And so he needs a distraction, and this seems to be what he's going for.
I'm so sorry to cut you off, Peter. Thank you so much for all of that. We're going to be watching this story very closely. Of course, our next story is about that leak in Signal, and I look forward to speaking to you again very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Another question,
Which of your national
please.
security
Go ahead.
advisors, just following up on your comments on the economy, there is reporting that consumer confidence fell for the fourth straight month. What is your message to Americans who are concerned about?
Well, I know this, that for the first time in like 50 years, right track, wrong track, we're on the right track. And I think people see that. And if you look at prices are way down. You know, when I first came here, the first time I met with you people officially, they were screaming at me about eggs. I said, I've been here for a week and I'm being yelled at about eggs. Egg prices have come down 45, 50% in the last week and a half. And our Secretary of Agriculture has done a great job. As you know, Brooke, she's done a fantastic job, and others working with her have done a great job. But we brought eggs down at a level that nobody thought we could get at. I inherited that situation, and I inherited a grocery situation. The groceries went way up, an old-fashioned word, but it's a very descriptive word. Groceries have gone through the roof. And I used to campaign on it. I used to say, we're going to get groceries down, and we have got it down. I watched a certain newscast over the weekend, and a congressman, Democrat congressman, said, well, Trump's done a lot. I agree. He's been great on the border. He's been great on the military. But, you know, he hasn't brought prices down. That's false. Gasoline's way down. Eggs are way down. Groceries are down very substantially, but down. Almost everything's down. Now, I'd like to see interest rates come down a little bit. And you're going to see billions of dollars, even trillions of dollars coming into our country very soon in the form of tariffs, because we were abused by presidents that, frankly, in all fairness, it wasn't their expertise, but they had no idea what they were doing.
Mr. President, you say tariffs will create more jobs here in America.
Oh, yeah, sure. It's going to agree. It'll create a lot of money and more jobs. But if you look, so in the last, these gentlemen would know about it, and ladies, because some of the ladies are great businessmen in this room that are becoming ambassadors. Great, really great, top of the line. When you look at the number of companies that have said, like, we're close to, I would say close to $4 trillion. We never had numbers like that. The number one chip maker in the world from Taiwan coming in with $200 billion. We have Apple. Look at Apple. $500 billion. $500 billion. They're going to build plants all over the United States. They were all being built in China. You have many, many companies, and maybe above all, you have the car companies coming in at levels that nobody's ever seen before. We have Honda is opening up one of the biggest plants in the world in Indiana, and many car companies are coming in. We have AI. We're leading China by a lot in AI, and we're going to keep it that way because we've made it very good for them, and we're going to protect them once they're here. We'll protect them through taxes, through incentives, and also through tariffs. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you.
שוב ושוב את פני המזרח. הלחימה בעזה נמשכת. ככל שהחמאס יתמיד בסרבנותו לשחרר את חטופינו, המכבש שנפעיל יהיה עוצמתי יותר ויותר, ואני אומר לכם, חברי הכנסת, אני אומר את זה גם לחמאס. זה כולל תפיסת שטחים, וזה כולל עוד דברים שאני לא אפרט כאן.
חברת הכנסת גוטליב, קריאה ראשונה.
Benjamin Netanyahu is facing growing opposition from within Israel, with street protests becoming an almost daily occurrence. Fresh protests swept the country as the Israeli parliament discussed changes in the committee that appoints judges. Protesters blocked a highway leading to Jerusalem at the Shoresh Junction. Meanwhile, with Netanyahu resuming the war on Hamas after ending a 2-month ceasefire, the mass protests demanding a return to negotiations to bring back the remaining hostages are only increasing in their urgency.
The Israeli people want the return of the hostages. The people want democracy. The people have no confidence in the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. The people want a government commission of inquiry. The people do not want war. The people want a deal that includes everyone. The people want elections now.
536 days of war. 536 days of the hostages are in hell. Until when will we have to wake up to this reality in this state? Enough. Enough.
Another reason for the anger against Netanyahu are his recent actions in placing his confidants in crucial positions while getting rid of his critics. He has already sacked Israel's Internal Security Agency Chief Ronen Bar, former IDF Chief Herzi Halevi, and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant have also resigned. Many protesters are accusing Prime Minister Netanyahu of forsaking accountability and taking decisions to consolidate power by firing critical voices from key government institutions as well as within his government.
אנחנו משנים את פני המזרח התיכון. הלחימה בעזה נמשכת. ככל שהחמאס יתמיד בסרבנותו לשחרר את חטופינו, המכבש שנפעיל יהיה עוצמתי יותר ויותר, ואני אומר לכם, חברי הכנסת, אני אומר את זה גם לחמאס. זה כולל תפיסת שטחים, וזה כולל עוד דברים שאני לא אפרט כאן. אתם ממחזרים את הסיסמאות הלעוסות, המגוחכות, על קץ הדמוקרטיה. ובכן, פעם אחת ולתמיד, לא הדמוקרטיה בסכנה, שלטון הפקידים בסכנה.